Mackenzie Johnston with Tri-State Livestock News, bringing you discussions concerning fair cattle markets. Today we have the opportunity to chat with Brooke Miller of Washington, Virginia. Brooke is the president of the United States Cattlemen's Association. Can you tell me a little bit about your background and your involvement within the cattle industry?
Certainly. I've been involved in the cattle industry my entire life. I'm 60 years of age now, just turned 60 in August. Live here in Washington, Virginia on our family place that I grew up on with my wife. We have 4 children. They're pretty much all grown and almost on their own right now. Started out with commercial cattle and sort of morphed into purebred Angus in the early 1960s. I've been active in the American Angus Association and the purebred livestock industry my entire life. Was a member of RCAF USA, then transitioned over and became a founding member of the United States Cattlemen's Association. And about 5 or 6, maybe 7 years ago, I became pretty active in the United States Cattlemen's Association and now serve as the president.
What do you feel are the major issues standing in the way of fair cattle markets?
I think we lack a true free competitive market because of the concentration in the packing industry. There's just no free true market, and there are a lot of issues that play into that, but that's the ultimate issue is the concentration in the packing industry, and that causes no real true free market capitalism to occur.
What solutions do you think could be implemented to solve this issue?
Our government allowed the consolidation to occur through merger and acquisition, basically helpful to bigger is better. And that's now resulted in what we have, and it's apparent that this market concentration is unhealthy, not only for our free cattle market, for the economic industry of the cattle industry, but also for our supply chain. We saw that with COVID-19 and the disruptions in the supply chain when we had so much market concentration in 4 companies. And ultimately, it puts our food security as a nation at risk. And so the government needs to come up with ways to promote smaller packing companies to be successful, remove the regulatory burdens that are currently in play, and take a look at the business practices of the 4 major packers that are going on right now. So the government played into it, and unfortunately the government's going to have to fix the solution.
What are your thoughts on Senator Grassley's 5014 legislation?
Well, I wholeheartedly support Senator Grassley's 5014 legislation. In 2018, the number of cattle bought through negotiated cash purchases was close to 50%. That number dropped to a low of 24% last year. You know, when you talk about negotiated trade, we're talking about a cash market where there's a bidder and a seller, and currently what we have now is formula contracts, and price discovery is really not truly there. Price is actually brought to the seller. The sellers are now price takers rather than price setters, and I think 5014 will certainly help because so much relies on price discovery and our CME futures contract, and currently it's just too small of a volume of cattle, and it's really unfair, and it's creating a market that's really false and not true and competitive. So the United States Cattlemen's Association and I personally wholeheartedly support Senator Grassley's 5014 legislation.
What other ways do you think would be viable to increase competition within our cattle markets?
You know, there are a lot of ways to increase our competition, but it ultimately comes back to packer concentration and having people to competitively bid on what the true value of beef is. And there's no real competition. The packers have done an excellent job in monopolizing the market. These forward contracts and sweetheart deals with certain feedlots goes a long way to control the market. So does, the repeal of mandatory country of origin labeling devastated our ability to differentiate our product. And for the free traders out there that say we must compete on a global market, I say, well, how can we compete if we can't differentiate our product? How can the consumer choose what they want if it's not labeled properly? So mandatory country of origin labeling, I think, is a long way. Restoring our free market through 5014 and basically improving or decreasing the concentration at the packing level.
Earlier this spring, President Trump made the comment that he would like to do away with trade deals where we import cattle into the United States. What are your thoughts on imports of cattle and beef?
Well, I think we in the United States could certainly be self-sufficient and produce all of our own food and beef if we were allowed to. The importers and the packers use imported cattle to control the market and depress their domestic prices. So I think we could certainly produce more than enough food for our nation and other nations if we had a thriving cattle market. We have good trading partners in Canada and Mexico, and I'm not delusional enough to think that we wouldn't be able to trade with cattle and beef and with Mexico and Canada, but we certainly should be able to differentiate our product. And it really hurt the cattle growers of Canada and Mexico to lose mandatory country boards and labeling, because when our market plummeted within weeks of repeal of M-Cool back in 2015, their markets plummeted just like ours did. The United States Cattlemen Association and I are totally against importation of beef products from countries where they have foot and mouth disease. It puts our entire industry at risk, bringing beef in from those countries, and also the practices that those countries such as Brazil, where they basically use child labor and forced labor in their industry. So we're very much against importation from those type of places.
The USDA has come out and said that they would like to implement RFID tags across the industry by 2023. What are your thoughts on this?
I think that we as an industry need to have a way to source our animals back to the ranch, and RFID would allow us to do that. I think it would increase consumer confidence, and it would also allow us to track down any disease outbreaks should we have that. So I think RFID tags are good. I know a lot of people in the industry are against it. Our marketing and animal ID committees think the most important factors, if it is implemented, is to make sure that we have ultra-high frequency tag technologies being used, so it would not slow down the speed of commerce. We think the data should never be privatized and held in any private company's database. It should be held in the state health and animal health and veterinarians database, and you should never be responsible for more than the cost of the tags as far as putting them in. But the United States Cattlemen Association feels as though RFID tags are an important part of the farm-to-table program, and think it would improve consumer acceptance.
There is currently a petition circulating to bring about a beef checkoff referendum. What are your thoughts on this?
The United States Cattlemen Association definitely agreed with the petitioners that a properly functioning beef checkoff program would not fund 80% of one policy organization's annual budget. I think that's where most of the dissatisfaction in our checkoff has come from. And the checkoff, in reality, has lost its responsiveness to the people that pay into it and fund it. You know, we're very much in favor of a checkoff program with a recurring referendum so that it will remain responsive to those people that are paying into it to make sure that it's doing what it's supposed to do. And we're pretty much caught between a rock and a hard place, because it's my opinion that we need a responsive, well-working beef checkoff program. And unfortunately, the one that we have is not working to producers' best interest right now. And if we do repeal this current beef checkoff, basically what that will mean is the Cattlemen's Beef Board and oversight provided by the USDA will be terminated, and state organizations and beef councils and Federation of State Beef Council will still be able to fund this large policy group that currently is dominating our beef checkoffs. So it really doesn't take away a lot of the problems with what we're trying to fix. And it's our sincere hope that we as an industry can work together to bring forth meaningful reform so the beef checkoff will work for everybody and cut out all what we see as the corruption that's going on. I'm not sure that we're going to be able to do that. It may take an act of Congress in order to do that. That's going to be a tall order.
What are your thoughts on the DOJ investigation into the Big Four beef packers and the fact that we haven't heard anything about that investigation yet?
I think it was long overdue, but we're certainly appreciative that the interest it's getting and the Department of Justice investigation. I think the Department of Justice is investigating this, and it's my sincere hope that they're doing a good job of investigating this and doing all their due diligence. I think it's pretty customary for investigators to be tight-lipped and not really comment on it. So really nobody knows what's going on with the Department of Justice investigation right now. You know, the United States Cattlemen's Association has long supported needed clarifications and enhancement of the Packers and Stockyard Act of 1921. The Packers and Stockyard Act was passed basically to regulate the sale of livestock by farmers to the more economically powerful livestock buyers. And the act passed following a long list of existing antitrust laws, the Sherman Antitrust Act of 1890, the Federal Trade Commission of 1914, and the Clayton Act of 1914. We're certainly hopeful that these investigations will step up and play a role that the Packers and Stockyard Act of 1921 was supposed to have in the marketplace. We're certainly hopeful that the Department of Justice will do a complete and thorough investigation and find what we all suspect is going on.
We've seen vertical integration in both the pork and poultry industries. Do you think the cattle industry is in danger of going down that same path?
Absolutely. I think that's what the Packers are trying to do. This has always been a concern. You know, we've seen poultry growers and hog farmers fall prey to vertical integration. Sheep industry is in trouble. Cattle industry has been more difficult because of the amount of land that it takes to raise cattle. You know, it certainly is a huge threat and you can't ignore it.
What are some of the main concerns you're hearing from U.S. Cattlemen's members?
Same thing you're hearing, pretty much. I mean, packer concentration, manipulation of our markets due to that monopoly. M-Cool was a big hot button issue. I think when M-Cool was repealed, the country wasn't quite as united on it, but then when we saw the results of what happened, not only did they repeal M-Cool, but there now is no clear definition of what product of USA is, and we certainly have a petition with FSIS about defining the label because it's being misused right now, and we must define that label as cattle that are born, raised, and processed in the United States. And once we get that, hopefully we can also get M-Cool back, and I think that would be a huge boost to our industry and a huge boost to the economic health of rural America and middle America.
Do you have any closing statements you'd like to make regarding the cattle industry and our markets?
You know, it really is sad to me to see the farmers and ranchers all across America not be able to make a good living commensurate to what anyone can make, not working near as hard, not putting in near as much risk, near as much capital, due to our unfair markets. And we're losing cattle ranchers and farmers all across America at an alarming rate. And our government doesn't step in and start creating an environment where we can actually make a fair wage and living for our work and our investment. It's going to be really bad for this country, and we're going to end up dependent on multinational companies and foreign companies for our food sources. And that would be the ultimate disaster, I think. And I think the COVID-19 pandemic certainly made non-farm people, non-ranchers, sort of take a note at their food sources and realize that food doesn't come from the grocery store. It's grown. They're more interested in where their food comes from. Mm-hmm. And we need to partner with consumers and try to cherish that partnership and develop that partnership, because we're a purebred cattle operation that sells mostly seed stock. You know, we have bulls that we don't want to sell as seed stock for various reasons, and if we take them to the market, we lose our shirt, just like a lot of people. But recently, due to COVID-19, we've had so much interest in freezer beef and people buying beef from us directly all over the eastern seaboard. I think it's a pretty good sign that consumers are very concerned about the health and the safety of their food sources. So I think this is a definite opportunity for us as an industry to unite and try to work towards some solutions. And joining a grassroots, member-driven organization such as United States Cattlemen's Association is certainly something that more people need to do, because I'm shocked at the apathy that we see in a lot of people that ranch and raise cattle as far as paying attention to how to fix our markets and how to better our markets. Everybody is so very busy, and we all are very busy, but we better start paying attention to our industry and the health of our industry and the markets of our industry if we want to continue in this business.